Okay, so we are going to start on slide 1, and we are going to talk about standards today. And my name is Kaylee Tesseri. So we'll press present, and we will go into the teacher standards. So these are the 5 teacher standards. The one that I chose was engage in professional growth and leadership. Overall, the standard talks about improving in your own extra time to assist your students learning in the classroom. This next slide is all about student standards, and the one that I chose for student standards is creativity and innovation. This is when the children invent and create in order to learn. For the teaching technology standard lesson, I found a web page, and it's about professional development, and it's a website that teachers could use in their own time, and all their seminars and all their discussions talk about it's okay to ask questions and how do you create the classroom environment where children are not afraid to ask those questions, because they can be hard, especially when you're talking about the little kids. For my student technology lesson about creativity and innovation, this is a website it's a lesson that talks all about like using pictures to create a story. So this would be used for the younger kids, and you could sit down with a kid, you can give them pictures, they can create a story with the pictures, and then you can talk about them and write down keywords, have the children write down those keywords, and you can just work on their story creation from there. So in conclusion, it's let your students explore. If there's any question, like, let them explore, let them be creative, let them just keep going. Use their little creative minds and just keep going. Conclusion number 2 is never limit yourself with technology, because if you limit yourself and you don't know about technology yourself, then you're not helping your kids out. And number 3 is one of my favorite quotes: if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you don't use technology in your classroom, the kids aren't going to know how to do it, so they're going to fall behind and they're going to lose it when they go into future classrooms. And here are my citations. And ta-da! That's it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I am going to pass it on to Deontay.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. And I'll share my screen now. So if you give me 1 second, and there we go. Everyone. So my my name is Deontay Weldon, and I'm doing National Technology Standards as well. I'll start on 1 with my teacher standards. It was promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility. And basically, we have to understand as teachers that the digital world is ever changing. We need to make sure that we are teaching our children the proper things to do ethically and legally. And then my second standard for the students was digital citizenship. We want to help our students to understand they have obligations too. The internet is just not fun. They have to make sure that they are using it responsibly and legally, because the internet can be very dangerous, especially for some of our smaller children. For the teacher standard, I chose a lesson that's called I've Got the Blues, an interdisciplinary unit for second graders dealing with blues themes and literature. It was very, very innovative, because it allows a teacher to go to Google Earth so that their students can see photos of Maine. I thought it was really neat that they could take them right through Maine like they had been there. In addition to that, the lesson plan also wanted parents to go online and read the books that the children had read in the classroom. So it gave about 6 or 7 books that they could go over there to be able to use the internet. with their children. For the student one, for the student one, I did dinosaur math, which was very interesting. The students would work with dinosaur math worksheets, and taking those worksheets and using those different dinosaurs, they can go on the internet, on iPads, and look up the dinosaurs. So they get a language math piece. Also, they can bring technology into the room by using the smart board to pull up PowerPoints that are interactive to be used with the children. And that's all listed at that website at the bottom of the slide. Now, we want to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility for our children. When we're following this standard, we want to make sure that all of our students are completely aware of everything that they need to do in the regulations of the school system. We want to make sure they're viewing appropriate things on the internet. Should have access to technology no matter what. So we want to make sure that no matter what their needs are, what their situation is, that in our school, we make sure all of our students have access to that. Also, because all of our schools have different cultures, we want to make sure that we bring global awareness and cultures into our classrooms using technology. With digital citizenship, we have to keep our children safe from everything. So we want to make sure they're safe when they're using their technology and predators aren't taking advantage of our students. Also, we want to make sure that our students are using it productively, and we want to personally, as technology grows, we know that we want our students to be abreast of everything they can, so we want to make sure we keep our students as clear as possible on that. And here are my references, and it lists some of those wonderful sites that we can use on the smart board. And I am about to pass this over to Joanne. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello everyone, I'm Joanne and I'm going to be talking about the first standard for teaching, facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity. And then for the student, critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. So pretty much what is it? What is facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity? Well, it teaches teachers to use their own knowledge to guide and strengthen a child's learning and creativity in personal and virtual settings. So we could be face-to-face or we could be on the computer. And it also inspires students to learn by solving real-world problems and using their digital resources. So not only like using each other, but using the internet, using just anything that's on the computer, iPads, games, anything. So for the critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making, what does it mean? It means students use critical thinking to solve issues using research. So they identify problems, figure out solutions, and ponder the question of, is there more than one solution and how can I solve it? So for the teaching standard, I found a lesson plan that is creating a new pencil. So the teachers would show a pencil with two ends, so two erasers. So that wasn't really an idealistic pencil. So the students have the question, what is wrong with this pencil? So they would have to find a way and work together to make a pencil that actually makes sense and explain why that pencil doesn't make sense. So the students could use iPads or the internet to try and reinvent a new type of pencil. For the student standard, I found a thing on investigating nitrogen dioxide. So students would observe maps and graphs on the internet to understand where and when the levels of nitrogen dioxide are stronger. And they would also find out what factors around the world affect nitrogen dioxide levels and what they can do about it. So factors like pollution, they would then figure out, well, what type of pollution is there? How can I stop this pollution? And pretty much what can I do to help solve this? But in conclusion, the questions I ask myself, how will this relate to my classroom and my particular lesson? So how will I incorporate technology in everything that I do in my classroom? Also, how does it relate to the essential conditions like shared vision, empowered leaders? So how does that relate to what I'm doing? And lastly, how can I relate these standards to each of my students? So every student is different. Every student has different needs. Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners. How can I relate this technology to every single one of my students and make them learn the same thing and be on the same track? So these are my references, and now I will pass it along to Alexis.
Thank you. My name is Alexis Willoughby, and I also did mine on National Technology Standards. What? Oh man. So my standards for the teacher are to design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments. So for the teachers design, develop, and evaluate authentic learning experiences and assessments incorporating contemporary tools and resources. And then for the student, communication and collaboration are key. And the students in this standard, they use digital media and environments to communicate and work collaboratively, including at a distance to support individual learning and contribute to the learning of others. So you might ask, what will this look like during a lesson plan? So during a lesson plan, you might use a PowerPoint activity about alliteration and personification. You can do this for grade levels 3 through 5. So you'll see students create a PowerPoint showing illustrating two types of figurative language. You'll see students use an interactive online tool to create a similar slideshow presentation. They can use something called Zoho Show. Students can collaborate and work together, even on different computers with a simple URL address. During this, students can also demonstrate understanding of personification by creating and interpreting simple examples. They also will demonstrate understanding of alliteration by creating and interpreting simple examples. So the standards connection for this is to demonstrate understanding of figurative language, word relationships, and nonsense and word meanings. Some materials that the children will use is PowerPoint, web sites like an introduction to alliteration, an introduction to personification, and maybe a tour if they aren't really interested in Zoho Show. They can just use PowerPoint. Also, they can use downloadable idea cards. So another idea, if you might ask, what would an activity look like for standards? So an activity would be the Explorer's Graveyard, because typically classrooms learn about explorers to America at the start of the school year. But with Halloween around the corner, the assignment involves research, review, and creative writing. So during this, you'll review lessons about explorers, encourage collaboration and brainstorming to develop creative writing skills. During this, the children will be able to work with a partner, if they would like, about creating a tombstone. They will pick whoever they would like. For an example, they might choose Columbus, and on their tombstone, they're going to write the date of birth, the death, 3 accomplishments, a rhyming verse, a creative design on the tombstone, and what they're going to use during this activity is large white art paper, colored pencils, markers, an encyclopedia, history book, and have access to laptops or other computers. Because what they want to do is they want to learn all they can about this one person. And you can get really into this if you want and put some green grass around the tombstone, bats, a full moon, a black sky, and stars, maybe even some cobwebs. If you really want to get into the technology side of it, you can take a picture of each explorer's gravestone and you can make voice threads. Put it on the school website for the families to view. You can incorporate some geography into the lesson by having students use a site, and they can retell history by putting it on the location where the story takes place. You can also create an online graveyard website. So 3 points when using technology standards is technology is integrated best. You shouldn't just stop and think that he or she is using a technology tool. You should think of it as a second nature. Students are more often and likely to be engaged in projects when technology tools are a part of a learning process. I feel it's best that they make technology a routine in the classroom, and they use technology with the lesson, make sure it's a part of it, and make sure that technology is ready to go and accessible at all times. There are 4 ways that I found out that technology is integrated, which is sparse, which means technology is rarely used. There's basic, which means technology is used occasionally or often just in a lab. There is comfortable, which means technology is used in the classroom on a fairly regular basis. Or seamless, which means students employ technology daily in the classroom. And these are my references.
Okay, well, that completes our first hangout. So see you all later.